What's up guys, Eirgor here again. Today Last Epoch had a big blog post talking about their new item factions system that's coming in the 1.0 release and how it's going to affect how trading works in the game. I wanted to go over it a little bit with you guys. I'm going to give a quick, somewhat brief rundown of how the system works and then I'll give my opinion on it. As it stands currently, you can only trade items through the item gifting system, which only allows you to give items to people who were in your party with you when the item dropped. The new item faction system is going to open up trading to other characters, or if you prefer to play without trading, there's also an option for that. The two item factions are Merchant's Guild, which is the one that is centered around trading with other players, and the Circle of Fortune, which is the one that is not. Each faction will have a reputation system that you progress through, and you gain reputation by killing monsters and completing quests. Every time you gain enough reputation, you will rank up with that faction and gain a new bonus from them. There are 10 ranks for each faction. As you're gaining reputation from killing monsters and completing quests, you'll also be gaining favor, which you use to purchase things from the faction. Both factions have a faction vendor that allow you to buy faction-specific base type items in a similar manner to the Gambler, but they can also have exalted items. These items, however, will be outpaced by endgame items in order to prevent the FOMO effect from your faction selection. Items that you purchase through the faction or receive from faction-related mechanics will have a faction rank requirement on the item. If you pick one of the factions and then decide later on that you changed your mind, you can switch to the other faction and you won't lose the progression you made in the first, you just will have to switch back to it before you can gain those benefits again. If you join the Merchant's Guild, you'll gain access to the Bazaar, which allows you to trade items directly with other players. It functions similarly to an auction house system in other games, so you list an item and then someone else can buy it and vice versa. Buying and selling items on the Bazaar will depend on the faction rank requirement on the item. If you do not meet the rank requirement, you won't be able to buy it, nor would you be able to list it for sale. Only equipable items such as gear and idols can be sold on the Bazaar. If you join the Circle of Fortune, you'll gain access to the Observatory and the Prophecies system. Prophecies are an item that you can acquire with favor from the Observatory. These items are similar in theory to the prophecies that used to be in Path of Exile. Instead of being static preset items, they are items with affixes on them that affect how they work. But their main functionality is similar in that they come with an action that you will have to do in order to activate the prophecy, and then an item or reward of some sort that you will gain once you do said action. Within the observatory, there are telescopes that, when you look through them, show you constellations that have multiple prophecies on them. You'll be able to look at these prophecies and see what the required action and what the resulting reward will be before you even have to choose them. You can only choose one prophecy per constellation, I believe. Once you choose your prophecy, then the constellation re-rolls. There are also lens items that you can apply to the telescopes in order to manipulate what kinds of prophecies you'll find in the constellations through that telescope. Each telescope can have up to 3 lenses equipped into it depending on your rank with the faction. This is an interesting take on the trading system in my opinion. Usually it's very difficult to have a good solid item economy in an ARPG when you have trade, but having a strong item economy in an ARPG is extremely important to the health of the game. Some games like Path of Exile opt to have separate servers where on one server you have trade available and on the other server it's solo self-found only. This usually works well for those games, but 11th Hour Games has decided to move away from that as they don't want to have to manage multiple item economies and instead want to be able to just manage one overall item economy. I understand this choice because it probably eases the burden from them somewhat. Personally, I think that trade should just kind of be free to do. You should be able to just trade any item with any other player that you want to, but I could see this system working pretty decently anyways. I'm especially interested in the Circle of Fortune system though. Honestly, I probably won't interact with the Merchant's Guild that much. I'll definitely check it out, but I don't usually trade very often anyways. I prefer to find most of my stuff myself. And I really like the sound of the prophecies in Circle of Fortune. It's interesting to me how the prophecies do seem to at least be somewhat inspired by Path of Exile's old prophecy system, but they definitely put their own twist on it, because the prophecies in Path of Exile, they were always very specific things. This prophecy was always, when this thing happens, you get this item, and it was that specific prophecy. You could just get it. It could drop, and there were tons of them, tons of different ones. Whereas for the Circle of Fortune, it seems like it's more randomized, like those items have affixes on them that roll when they become available in the constellation. I also am very appreciative of the fact that they don't wipe your reputation if you decide to switch factions. That means that if you want to explore the other faction, you're not completely screwing your character over. They also said that the factions will be for your specific cycle. I think they called the servers. So like if you have a set of hardcore characters and you get so far in a faction, all of your hardcore characters, once they choose that faction, will have that rank. But if you go on to softcore and you've made no progress on softcore, those characters won't have access to that rank yet. Overall, I do think this is a pretty interesting approach to trading and item acquisition in general. Like I said before, I don't fully agree with the need to restrict trade in a game like this, but I do understand them wanting to be able to directly control the item economy a little bit more, just because it is so important to the health of the game. Hopefully this works out well, and I look forward to checking it out when 1.0 releases. If you want to dig in a little deeper into the details of the system, I'll have their blog post and their video trailer linked below in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.